Hi, my name is Dr. Om Manchanda. I'm the managing director of Dr. Lal PathLabs. Change is these days very rapid. So I think as a CEO, it's very important to realize that don't expect them to adjust to the way you are. The young generation doesn't like to be told. Stay true to your long-term objective. Don't waste your time to prove yourself to others. Follow your own passions.
What's the one career advice that you've got but you disagree with?
So I've spent about 33 years of corporate career. Every year, typically you undergo an appraisal system and your boss would tell you what are your areas of strength and what are your areas of weaknesses. And invariably, one is expected to focus on areas of improvement. And every year you go through the same cycle. Personally, I have found that it's good for someone to be aware about both, but I don't think one should spend disproportionate time and energy to improve your areas of weaknesses. I think the success lies if you pick your areas of strength.
For somebody getting elevated to the CEO role for the first time, what should he or she do?
So I would say don't be in a hurry to prove yourself. I've seen a lot of people, suddenly these tags changing and then overnight their behavior changes. So take your time, settle down on your new role. Second thing, be careful that certain behaviors, patterns may have helped you in the past. You may have to shed those patterns and adopt new ones. Sometimes common mistake we end up making is that what made us successful on our previous role will make us successful on the new role as well. It's important to know that what are the new skills and competencies, etc. required on the new job.
Om, can you walk us through the formative years of your career? Who and what influenced it?
I think as a person, I'm pretty much influenced by my parents. They went through a lot of hardships. They came to the India side during India-Pakistan partition, settled down in a small village, and I grew up in that village in one of the most backward districts of India, which is Mewat, a small village of 4,000 population. And I studied at Hindi medium school and then moved out of that village to go to Hisar to do my veterinary sciences. And I think my professional life started changing when I went to Hisar. I became aware about many competitive exams and started dreaming about big things in my career. Prepared for MBA and I got through IIM Ahmedabad. I think I was fortunate enough to be picked up by Hindustan Lever. And those days, there were different companies. They were called Unilever Group companies. And then my professional career actually was shaped while my stay in Hindustan Lever. I was extremely fortunate to work with the stalwarts like, they were all my seniors like Mr. R. Gopalakrishnan, D. Shiv Kumar, Kamaljeet Singh, K.K. Shirdhar, Mr. Sanjay Khosla, Suresh Narayanan. So I was fortunate to be with them. I think this period was between 96 to 99 in Hindustan Lever. I would say was the most defining moment for my professional career.
In hindsight today, what do you feel you could have known more of about leadership?
Probably initially my understanding of leadership was that you need to be popular. I think over a period of time I realized it's good to be popular, but you need to be effective. So in order to be effective, then it's like making a choice between two rights. And that's where the gray zone comes in. Either way, choices are right, but you still have to make one. So being indecisive is not an option for a leader.
How do leaders like you turn people to believe in a cause?
The most important thing I would say, trust. Trust is the key. The CEO has to build trust with all the stakeholders. Second is higher purpose in any business is very, very important. COVID-19 actually opened my eyes. We had read about all this. But when COVID-19 happened, everybody was working from home and we are in a kind of business where we were required to be on the front. And I was actually sitting at home down with COVID, leading the whole organization. Every day I used to send out mails to 5,000 people, motivating them, telling them about higher purpose. And what I saw in the organization, amount of energy people were putting behind this was amazing. So that taught me that higher purpose is very, very important.
What are the three most important decisions you took as a leader that made a real delta to the organization?
I think the first one was to align with the board and the promoter about medium and long-term strategy. It was very, very important to make sure that we are all aligned to in which direction we are moving. Second important thing was that I knew that status quo is not going to work. I had to bring out a lot of changes in the way corporates work. So I thought through the organization structure and implemented that. Third important thing was assessing the talent gap and started hiring people from outside and helping them settle down in the organization in the early years were very, very important.
What's your advice to CEOs as to how they should lead in promoter-led companies?
I think the first thing is to actually admit or realize that it's a completely different setting than what one is used to. You're not sitting with professionals in the room to discuss issues, but you may be sitting with a professional, also a very large stakeholder or a shareholder in that room. So that shareholder actually has built the organization with a lot of sweat and hard work. It's important to know that and realize that. Second is build trust with the promoters is extremely critical in the early years. Take your time, settle down a bit. Second is, I think, focus on some quick hits so that you are not just seen as a person who is only discussing and telling, but you're also demonstrating success.
And double-clicking on that, what's your advice to promoters when they hire professional CEOs in a promoter-led company?
I think the most important is to keep asking this question, why have you hired that professional? So there must have been some reason because you actually want certain values to come from outside. Promoters must give that space and delegation and let go few things because that's a constant struggle that is always there. The professional struggles to find space. The second most important thing is that each promoter, in my view, is also surrounded by clutch of advisors. It's very important that one should directly communicate with the CEO rather than taking help of your advisor's network to communicate with him or her. And the third most important thing is there must be something bothering CEO. It is important to have informal setup meetings with him or her so that that person opens up, and if there are any challenges that person is facing, you are able to resolve that.
What do you think are CEOs missing today, and what should they be solving more of?
So I actually have nearly 33 years of corporate experience, and what I notice is that change is these days very rapid and consumer trends are rapidly changing. I think CEO must keep eyes and ears open on mega trends, and you don't know from where that disruption is coming. In the past, one was very focused on competitors from within the same space, but that person or that company may be sitting outside your own domain, which is going to disrupt you. So I think keep an eye on trends. Second most important thing is managing self, both emotionally as well as keep yourself along with times. Tech is a very, very important area for especially people at my age to acquire. I think new technologies that are coming in that are disrupting models, make sure that you are updated on all these developments.
What's the best way for a CEO to give feedback?
So I think as a CEO, it's very important to realize that don't expect them to adjust to the way you are. It's important for the CEO to adjust to the way they are. It's like different strokes for different folks. My sense is these days there's a lot of noise. Make sure that you have the ability to cut the clutter and get to the core issue. I have found that facts and figures, if you have the kind of statements you make, really help you. And if there are difficult feedbacks to be given, try and give them on one-on-one basis rather than in a public setting.
Two misconceptions about leadership that you would like to clarify.
First misconception is that people think CEO is a superhero. I don't think that is true, because CEO is also one of us. CEO doesn't have all the answers. Second misconception is that the leader always has to lead from the front, which is true in certain situations, especially in crisis. But there are situations where you don't need to be in front. You can be behind and allow your team to be ahead of you.
What are some leadership traits that you think are undervalued or underused by leaders today?
I would put number one as humility. It's highly underrated trait. I think if someone is able to practice that genuinely, it would be a great asset. It helps you to listen to people. It helps you to collaborate. It doesn't bring you as you're the only guy around.
What are you seeing leaders do today that they should actually stop?
Success actually has one challenge. One should know that it's a teamwork. My success is not only effort put in by me, but there's a team behind that. There is a support system behind that. There's an environment which is favoring that success. There is also a luck factor as well behind that success. So it's important to know that, and I think try and avoid be arrogant about your success.
What's your advice to leaders as to how they manage millennials today?
So the first thing is one should know that this new world is a bundle of energy. There is a rapid change that is happening in the environment. I think the leaders must know that the pace of change is so much and make sure that you provide them space to bring that change. Also, I find that young generation doesn't like to be told. It's very important that you act a bit of a passive leader, be as a support and tell them that you are always there for any advice, inputs they need, rather than constantly micromanaging them is one advice that I would give.
Om, how does a leader manage change well in an organization?
First thing is for me to deep dive into what tech is all about. Build an understanding of how models are changing. So once that is done, then bring that elephant in the room and tell every stakeholder, including your board and senior management team, that this is a change which is happening in outside environment. Many times organizations are very, very slow to respond to a change because their reference point is always their past and they think they are the market leader, so they know it all, but there is something happening there. So create awareness about that outside change which is happening inside. The second important thing is take help of outsiders, because that's the kind of skill that does not exist within the company. You may be aware about the change, but who is going to bring that change is very, very important. So I think there may be a need for bringing in outside talent to bring that change. And third is help the person or set of people whom you brought from outside to bring that change, because the organization is going to resist that.
3 traits that define you as a leader today.
Very strong sort of a relationship builder. I've been through many 360-degree feedback when people rate me very high on EQ. I think people do rate me high on strategic thinking as well. And people also do tell me that I have perseverance and resilience in me.
What's the most important risk you took as a leader and why?
Number one was when I left Hindustan Lever and joined Monsanto. I was doing extremely well. There was no push at all. Everybody was asking me, why are you leaving when everybody wants to join this company? You're doing so well and you're leaving this and joining Monsanto, which many people had not even heard about. It was big risk, and I explained to you as to why I thought I should do that, building the platform on life sciences. Then the second risk that I took when I left Ranbaxy and joined Dr. Lal PathLabs. This was sort of a different equation because there was some element of push which I had. The second risk was very, very big risk because I was leaving all the big names behind. All the multinational names like Levers, Ranbaxy and Monsanto, and joining a small little family-run business. It was very, very unsettling for first few years. But I think those are 2 risks I would say I take.
Om, what would you want to get better at as a leader?
I think I should know how to say no. There are many situations you provide a long rope and then you know something is not working. Sometimes a straight answer no might just help.
Do you have a favorite failure of yours and what can we learn from it?
I think when I moved from Monsanto to Ranbaxy, I would say that is my favorite failure. I learned quite a bit about career. First is that career is a long journey, so don't get disappointed with few ups and downs that will come on the way. Stay true to your long-term objective, and I think this failure I learned quite a bit in my career. And also I realized that sometimes not getting something you desperately want may just be a stroke of luck.
What's the most effective way of announcing bad news to your leadership team?
I take help of numbers quite a bit. Facts and figures actually help you to convey the news. These numbers also help you to make everyone see the reality. I think that's my favorite way of communicating failures.
Om, how do you measure success today of a CEO?
I think number one is ability to decide. In the past, information was not readily available. Analyzing information, building insights was not available. So a lot of time used to be spent on that. Today you have information freely available, insights freely available, but you need guts to decide. I would say today CEOs have to develop the ability to decide and be decisive. Second one, I would say, know that your biggest differentiator of you as an individual is your EQ. Your ability to lead people, ability to manage yourself, I think is very, very important. Third would be building a culture of honesty, integrity and performance is very important for a CEO. For a long-term success of any organization, it's a culture that defines the success of that company.
Om, what do you do to ensure your company and their leadership is continuously focusing on its goals, vision and mission?
So typically every year we sit down for next year plans. And I sit down with my team and I ask each one of them to decide 5 priorities we as a group need to take up next year. And it's very important to identify those priorities where they require a cross-functional sort of interaction. So we align ourselves on those 5 priorities, and my job actually becomes to keep everybody focused on those 5 things.
What are those 2 or 3 traits that will always get you a job when sitting in front of Om Manchanda?
I would actually look for somebody's behavior in a stressful situation. I would prompt them to answer or tell me a situation, how they behaved in when they were under stress. I think that will become a very important differentiator.
What's been the most useful leadership advice you ever received, Om? Who did it come from? What did they tell you?
I don't think I can pinpoint one person's name, but I think one sort of advice that I've got while talking to many of them is that don't waste your time in proving yourself to others. You are your own best judge, and see what your strengths are, what your weaknesses are. Be self-aware and then act on that.
If you had an option to trade places with anyone in the industry right now, who would it be and why?
I would love to be CEO of a startup company, and which is trying to disrupt traditional business models.
Is there a leader from a different space that you really look up to?
Mr. Harsh Mariwala, Mr. Uday Kotak. I think from Harsh, I see the modesty. He's very humble, down to earth. And from Uday, the entire journey of Kotak is such an amazing inspiration, and what he has done is amazing.
If you had a chance to sit here and put somebody in that interviewing seat, who would it be and what would you want to ask them?
I would love to see or interview Elon Musk, and what drives him to do what he does is the question.
3 people on Om's must-watch list of upcoming CEOs.
So one is the CEO of Zomato. What that person has built is amazing. CEO of Nykaa, CEO of one of the large hospital chain of Manipal hospitals, and how they scale this entire space is what I'm looking forward to.
Om Manchanda, your quickfire with Qunba starts now. One thing you've learned never to do as a leader.
Not to indulge or encourage politics in the organization.
One thing you've learned always to do as a leader.
Be honest and trustworthy.
The next big innovation in health tech or diagnostics is going to be?
In the area of genomics, where you can predict any disease much earlier than what you do today.
When in doubt, Om Manchanda dash.
When in doubt, follow my gut.
One thing you wish people knew more about you.
I have a lot of interest in hiking. I try to hike every year. Last year I climbed Kilimanjaro.
An achievement you are most proud of.
I think I've had a very diverse sort of a career profile, coming from a small place to a veterinary doctor to a MBA, then worked for MNCs, joined a family business, and transformed the industry.
A personal achievement that you are really proud of.
I think I have followed my passion.
Om Manchanda's most prized possession is?
My family.
One thing on your to-do list that's been there for the longest time.
Just be with nature as much as possible.
One thing your boss and family would both agree about you.
I'm very resilient.
What do you imagine people would gossip about you in the corridors?
He's accessible.
A job offer you regret turning down.
Maybe starting a new fund.
One thing that nobody knows about you.
That I'm a very private person.
The one standout trait that will always get you a job with Dr. Om Manchanda.
I think if you have a track record of success, if you're a good people leader.
One thing to keep in mind when managing millennials.
They have mind of their own. They are in a hurry.
On the last hour of the last day of your professional career, what do you think you'll be doing?
I'll be looking forward to my next phase of life.
The next decade after your professional life will look like dash.
I would follow more spiritual journey, try and travel as much as possible and see this planet as much as possible.
Om, if you had a gigantic billboard out there, what would the message be to millions and why?
Don't waste your time to prove yourself to others. Follow your own passions.
Thank you for this tete-a-tete with Qunba. It was an exhilarating experience talking to you, Om.
It's a great initiative by all of you. I do believe that we've all learned lessons from leadership from the Western world. There's definitely no doubt there is an Indian way of doing things, and Indian companies and Indian CEOs are extremely successful. It's time for us to know what that sort of a secret sauce of Indian leadership is all about. Actually, this section I was a little better prepared. The second one is going to be more spontaneous. Right?
Yeah.
Is it okay?
Yeah. You did CR when you...
No. We were...
40 crore top line.